Hello everyone, welcome to Deeksha online classes. Today we are going to do a new topic named Modification of Stem. In our earlier botany class, we have already done modification of roots along with its morphology. In this class, we will be concentrating the second part of the plant, that happens to be stem. So moving on, the first point we have to ever read in any kind of understanding in plants is its morphology itself. So what is a stem? Which part is a stem? How does stem form? All these questions will be answered in today's class. So stem is the main axis of shoot system. So the first and foremost question you must remember in your mind is we are learning the shoot part of the plant. How is the shoot formed? From which part of the plant, or how is the germinating seed forming into shoot? The plumule of an embryo grows to form a shoot. This part generally is positively phototropic. In other words, it is anti-geotropic. It is against the ground and it is towards the light. So, it is positively phototropic, negatively geotropic. So, you will see in most cases the stem grows upright. In few cases though we have seen stem growing underground or on lateral positions, they come under modification. In general, stem grows upright against the earth gravity towards the sunlight. So, we have already understood that the stem grows from the plumule of the embryo and it is for positively phototropic and negatively geotropic. It is also negatively hydrotropic. What do you mean by this? In the soil, there is presence of moisture, there is presence of water. Stem goes against it. So, it is negatively hydrotropic. Now, the next question comes is plumule forms into shoot system. But how does the shoot grow? We all would have seen tall trees. In some of the earlier classes, we have discussed about tallest tree sequoia, which comes under gymnosperms, and another tall tree, angiospermic tall tree, eucalyptus. So, these trees grow to a height of 150, 200, 280 feet height. Sequoia grows up to 280 feet height, whereas eucalyptus grows up to 150 to 200 feet. So, how does the stem grow? Stem grows with the help of terminal bud. Which part of the plant is terminal bud? This part. The apical bud is the terminal bud which gives the stem a primary growth. This is another point we have learnt in our earlier classes, that growth is of two types, primary and secondary. We see primary growth in this case. Very important fact is stems have node and internode. Let's try to see this diagram. Look at this diagram, this part, another part and the next part. What can you see? You can see that intermittent node positions are observed and in between there is internode. So, nodes and internodes alternate each other in the shoot, which is absent in the root. This is one of the ways that we differentiate a stem from a root, is that roots do not have, it is devoid of nodes and internodes, whereas stem have nodes and internodes. Nodes possesses appendages. What are these appendages? These appendages are axillary buds which grow into a leaf, a flower, a new branch and so on. These all growths are exogenous. What do you mean by exogenous? It grows outside, towards the outer surface, towards the periphery. There is no growth moving inside the plant. There is no internalized growth. So, I repeat once more, we saw in this slide that the whole shoot system is divided into nodes and in between gaps called internode. the terminal bud or the apical bud help in the primary growth of the plant. And at every nodal point we can see new appendages growing such as leaf, branches and flowers. So, the young stem is green in nature. This is a point we need to understand here. Look at the entire stem. What color do you see? You see it green. Why do you see it green? Because it is a young stem. It is a young branch. Even in the tallest tree, if you actually see at the tip of the tree, you will still find some green branches. As the branch gets older, it undergoes secondary modification, secondary growth, it turns brownish. So, young stem is green and it also performs photosynthesis. Very important to understand this, that photosynthesis is not only a function or process which happens in leaf, but also greenish part of the plants take care of it. Like, I would like to highlight here a topic what we learnt in the last botany class was assimilatory roots or photosynthetic roots. Do you remember? We had two examples in that, Trappa and Tinospora. They were root, but still they were photosynthetic. Similarly, here stem also takes part in photosynthesis. Now, we have already seen the apical bud or the terminal bud help in the vertical growth or the primary growth. How do the branches come out? Branches come out from the appendages, and who is responsible for it? It is the axillary bud who is responsible. Axillary bud found at the axis of the leaf helps the stem to grow. You can see here another very important characteristic which differentiate a stem from a root is presence of multicellular hair named as trichome. Multicellular, if you can remember back, in the root we had epiblemma cell or the epidermal cell which formed into root hair. This root hair was unicellular. Root hair is unicellular, whereas stem hair is multicellular. So, this is a very important difference you must bear in mind. And what is stem hair called as? It is called as trichome. The word is derived from a word called as trichus, which means hair like. So, trichome is a word derived for hair like structure or the multicellular hairs present on the stem. They are found on the surface of the stem. Stem exposes leaves, flowers, fruit to their utmost suitable position in aerial environment. Let's see one by one. Now, the first and foremost important thing what we have to understand is, in a plant, have you observed that the leaves are in varied position? For example, this is one set of leaves where it appears to be opposite. In another set of leaf, there could be a condition that one leaf alternates the other leaf. There could also be a condition where more than two leaves come from the same node, when we call it as whorl leaf. So, this is the phyllotaxy I am trying to make you understand here. Here comes opposite, alternate and whorled. These are all phyllotaxy. What is phyllotaxy? Phyllotaxy is study of arrangement of leaf on a branch. Now, understand this. Look at these two leaves. Now, next you have to understand what is the scenario of above leaf. Is it at right angles to these leaves or is it exactly positioned above? Now, what do you think amongst these three, which of the leaves will get good amount of wind for humidity and sunlight, all kind of exposure. For me, I feel it might be best to have an alternate set of leaf. But understand one thing, it is just not alternate, even opposite and world phyllotaxy exhibits their branches in such a way that it gets maximum amount of light. To understand this a little more, I would like to take up one more example. Have you seen conifers? The tree looks like cones. So, this is how the tree top will be. The lowest branches are the widest, whereas the top branches narrow. So, if there is a sunlight provided at this juncture, what happens? This part also gets proper light and this part also is getting proper light. This is the point I wanted to make you understand, that the branches of a stem is positioned in such a way that every single part, may it be a root, sorry not root, may it be a leaf, may it be a flower or may it be a fruit, all of them get equal and good amount of light how much it is required. Now you might be wondering, if it is not a conifer, then what? Then you see the tree branches completely bend over. So you can imagine, this is one set of branches, this is another set of branches. This is how the branching starts off. So here is another branch, here is another branch, here is another branch. So again in this case, sunlight and humidity can easily reach to every branch. The wind blows, the sunlight, the temperature, the water movement, everything is taken care. So here you can understand stem and branches play a vital role. Moving on, these positions are optimum for its function. Now understand, if certain leaves or certain part of the plant require more light, they should be at the higher position. Let's understand. Do you agree to me when I say that the older leaf will be in the lower position and younger germinating leaf will be at the highest position? You also would agree to me that older leaf is already reaching senescence. It is dying out. So, maximum work or photosynthesis will be taken care by the younger leaf, which gets more amount of sunlight. So, this is how the stem and branches take care of providing sunlight and air. Let's move on to the next topic, which is the most important topic according to me, which I have seen many children get confused. Many of them ask me a question, "Ma'am, can you differentiate between sweet potato and potato?" Now, sweet potato is a root. And what about potato? Potato is a stem. So, please understand this difference. When you are going to understand the difference between root and stem, your difference is to understand what is a sweet potato, what is a potato, or in fact any other root and stem modification becomes very easy. For me, the most important part, if you ask me, while germinating we need to understand which part comes from where. So, root develops from radicle. I think the easiest way of remembering is R for root and R for radicle. Root develop from radicle, whereas stem or the entire shoot system develop from the plumule. So, root develops from radicle and shoot develops from plumule. How do they grow? Now, root is descending in nature. Let us understand, if this is the soil layer and here is the root starting, it descends downwards. So, the arrow is downwards, whereas the stem movement is upwards. So, stem is ascending and root is descending in growth. Root are non-green and non-photosynthetic except few aquatic plants. Again, which aquatic plant? Quickly. It is exceptions are Trappa and Tinospora. Trappa is also called as water chestnut. So, except these two, all other roots are 100% non-photosynthetic. Whereas, shoot in the younger stage, every one of them are photosynthetic. We also see nodes and internodes in case of shoot, but not in case of root. Now, you might have a doubt, how is it possible that nodes and internodes are there on potato? You say potato is a shoot. Let us see where is the nodes. Now, assume this is a potato. You would have seen on potatoes there are some eye-like structures from where the new plant starts growing. Have you imagined what are these eyes? These are auxiliary bud. And tell me, where do these auxiliary bud grow? These grow on nodal system. So, these are the nodes, and in between these are internode. So, what is this structure? This is a potato with node and internode. Okay. So, the most important thing you are seeing, axillary bud, internode and node. So, you can see new branches coming out from here, the leaves coming out from here. This proves that every stem must have axillary buds, nodes and internodes, and in a several condition it is photosynthetic. Again, you might be having a doubt in your mind, ma'am, you are telling stem is photosynthetic, what about potato? Potato is brown in color. I agree. But have you seen that certain potatoes have green tinge on it? Have you wondered why? Yes. When the potato comes above the surface level of the soil and when sunlight touches these potatoes, and that region, it starts becoming green. It starts getting the same or the inbuilt conditions of stem becoming photosynthetic. So, those potatoes which gets exposed to sunlight are greenish. So, next time observe the potatoes, you will understand it better. Okay. Continuing with the differences, root does not bear buds, whereas buds are present on stem. Just now we saw about the axillary bud present in a potato. So, it is present in stem but not in roots. Roots are negatively phototropic, stem is positively phototropic. We have discussed about this point that roots grow towards earth, stem grow towards the sunlight. So, positive geotropic condition in case of root and positive phototropic condition in case of stem. Roots are also positively roots are positively hydrotropic and stem is anti-hydrotropic, meaning to tell stem is going to grow erect above, but root goes into the water. Roots rather go in search of water. Even for an example like Opuntia, which is a desert plant, they have long roots which go in search of water. So, water and roots go hand in hand, whereas stem is negative to it. Next point what we want to understand is underground stem versus root. You might be wondering why. This is very important for us to understand. Reason is the most amount of confusion happens in this region itself. Think of potato, think of ginger, think of turmeric. These all parts come underground and they all have root like growths coming out from them. So, in many situations I have seen my students can't take it very easily the fact that they are not root but stem. we must give an answer to all the queries in this region. So, let us try and understand their differences. Underground stem bears nodes and internodes. Just now I gave you an example of potato. So, assume this is a potato. They have nodes and internodes where the eye regions are being present, from which the axillary buds grow. So, in between that is internode. So, let me give one more example. Ginger. Ginger, you know, these are horizontally growing branches of stem, which again have nodes and internodes. So, these regions what I have drawn is nodes. From one node to another node in between this region is called as internode. So, name any type of stem, may it be underground, subaerial or aerial, they must have nodes and internodes. They also might have scaly leaves. Now, especially in the ginger season, when the season is on, if you bring ginger, the young ones, you would have seen certain leaves which is present like this. So, we will just re-see the picture once more. If you see ginger, say this is a ginger and these are its nodes, you may have seen certain scaly leaves present like this. So, at these regions, okay, even if you haven't observed too much on this ginger part, I will give you another example. So, what is this? This is a onion or a garlic. So, which part is the stem here? In case of onion or garlic, the stem is highly condensed. This is the stem, below which you can see roots. And what are these? These are scaly leaves which is growing from the stem. So, this is present in case of underground stem, but it is absent in roots. Thin scale leaves are present in the nodes of the underground stem, but scale leaves are not found in root. So, the point is very clear that the scaly leaves are present only in the stem and not in the root. Underground stem contains terminal and axillary bud, but the axillary buds are absent in the root. Let us see once more. Now, this is a bud. Whenever a favorable time comes, the plant will start growing like this. In this case, the plant grows like this. You can do a small experiment. You can take one onion and dip the root side in water and keep. In a 2-3 days time, you will see the roots growing freshly, and in a week's time to a maximum of 10 days, you will see young germinating leaves beautifully growing in the top direction. So, this can be seen only on a stem and not on a root. Moving on, adventitious root develop from nodes of underground stem, whereas adventitious roots are not found in a root. So, before that, I would like to recall the point, what is adventitious roots. If you can remember from our earlier class, adventitious roots are those roots which do not grow from radicle. And what does radicle form into? It forms into the primary root. So, what are adventitious roots? Adventitious roots are those roots which do not grow from the radicle or the primary root. From where does it grow then? The best region is stem or leaf. In this case, it is stem. So, now if there is a ginger like this being present with nodes and internodes, and from here if you see certain roots coming out, what type of root they are? They are adventitious root. So, remember it very clearly. Root hair and root cap are not found in underground stem. Understand this again. This is a seed. We have seen this picture last time also, and this is our radicle. And where is our plumule? Our plumule is here. Now this region forms a covering. What you call it as root cap. In hydrophytes we call it as root pocket. But what is here? Here I have coleoptile. Coleoptile is present in the top of the or in the tip of the shoot, which is a characteristic feature of stem. Now we are coming to the most important topic of today, modification of stem. Modification of stem, when we are speaking, we divide the entire stem into three sections: underground stem, subaerial stem and aerial stem. We will see one by one each of them. Underground stem, or the stem of certain plants which grow inside the soil. Some time back I was giving you an example of potato. If potato exposes itself to sunlight, it starts becoming green. Now you can see the plant is started to grow on the potato. Why does these things form? Have we ever thought? Now every living organism wants to survive well. It doesn't want any kind of perishing over. So whenever there is good times, we try to consume some and save some. In plants also this is what happens. Plants want to tide over a unfavorable condition, and in the process what it does, in a favorable condition, it stores its photosynthetic material. So what it does, it starts storing and saving. So the end result of saving is ginger, which is a rhizome, colocasia, corm, bulb, onion and tuber, potato. Once it has stored, an unfavorable season comes, say for example winter season. It is unfavorable for the plants to grow well. In such a scenario, these parts, tubers, corm, rhizome and bulb, tide over the unfavorable condition. What is unfavorable condition? It could be summer heat when it is not getting enough water. It could be winter cold when the lands are frozen. Condition could be anything. But since the plant is well prepared before time, it has stored a lot of food material in the form of tuber, corm, rhizome and bulb, it can tide over the unfavorable condition. What we call these times as, these are perennation. It tides over the perennating time or the unfavorable time. By what process? By storage of food. So in this section of underground stem, the most important reason for modification is storage of food. I hope you have understood. This is rhizome, this is bulb, this is a tuber and the top one is corm. Moving on, we see subaerial modification. In subaerial modification, the most important function what it does is vegetative propagation. Many of you were asking me whether or not vegetative propagation is a asexual reproduction. You will get an answer here itself. Yes, it is an asexual reproduction because all are uniparental. Now look at these plants. This is a runner, it is a grass. This is a stolon, it is a strawberry, as an example. This is a sucker, here mint is the example. And this is offset, this is a pistia. Look at every example and tell how many plants are there in each example. There is a single plant. But have you imagined if I cut the grass at these points, or if I cut the strawberry plant here or the offset plant here or the sucker plant at these positions, will the plants die? No. But now tell me how many plants are there in each section. Here I can see 1, 2, 3 and 4 plants. In this section I can see 2 plants. In this section I can see 2 plants. And in this section I can see 3 plants. So the moral of story here is that vegetative propagation is a asexual reproduction which has uniparental system. There is no change in genetic conditions and it just keeps spreading further and further. So what are the examples under this we are seeing? We see stolon, that is a strawberry, sucker mint, runner grass and offset pistia. Offset is seen only in case of hydrophytes. The next category we will be learning is aerial stem modification. Aerial stem modification, when we are trying to understand, it completely depends on a different perspective. The perspective is, if it is having a weak stem, I would like to climb with the help of tendrils. If I am having a very strong stem, but if all the herbivores tends to eat me, I would rather have thorns and protect myself. In certain cases, I might want to store my food when I have bulbil, which is similar to that of bulbs. Bulbs underground, bulbil above the ground. Or it could be to reduce transpiration in xeric condition when we have phylloclades and cladodes. We will see one by one each of them, but before we go into that, let's try to summarize the entire chart. We have seen that stem are of 3 conditions. First one, underground. I am not getting into detailing of each of them, that we have seen and we will be further seeing. We had tuber, rhizome, corm and bulb. But what I want to highlight here is, in underground, the most important part was storage of food. Along with storage of food, they also did vegetative propagation. But in case of subaerial modification, they only and only did vegetative propagation. And in case of aerial structures, they did not take part in vegetative propagation. Some of them did storage, others helped in mechanical support in the form of climbers, and some others did protection from the herbivores. So this is the gist of all the types of stem. We are moving into each one in detail. So here you can see that stem modification is divided as underground modification, subaerial modification and aerial modification. We will see one by one each of them. Rhizome, which is ginger, bulb, onions and garlic, corm, colocasia and amorphophallus, tuber, potato. These are underground stem modification. A little on the surface of the ground, if the modification is happening, we call it as subaerial, meaning it is not completely in air, neither is it completely inside the soil. Runner, sucker, stolon, offset. Runner, cynodon. Other than this, grass and oxalis. These are the examples. We could write more examples in other categories also. Ginger, turmeric, banana and so on. In case of bulbs, onions and garlic is most important. Other than that, we also have lily, corm, colocasia amorphophallus, tubers, potato, and other than that we have one more, what is called as artichoke. The entire name is Jerusalem artichoke. Sucker, we have chrysanthemum, musa, and mint. Stolon, we have jasmine and colocasia. You might be wondering, I said colocasia and com also, and now I am saying colocasia in case of stolon. Yes, in several conditions you see more than one vegetative form. Colocasia is one such example. Okay, offset, pistia and ecornia. Moving on to the aerial type of stem modification. First one, tendril for climbing in case of passiflora. We also have grapevine. We do see this in case of pumpkin and so on. Then we have thorns which gives protection, citrus, eagle and so on. Phyllotaxy, opuntia, cocoloba, these are, you can also write aloe, this is a very common example you could see. In these case you will see succulent stem, a lot of moisture is in the air, in the stem, and the leaves are modified into spines so that the plant do not lose a lot of water in the form of transpiration. A modified form of phylloclade is called as cladode, where you have restricted numbers of nodes and internodes. One example in this is asparagus, another example is ruscus. Last classification under aerial modification and in total stem modification is bulbil, which I said is similar to bulb but it is above the level of ground. Dioscorea, agave, pineapple are few examples under this. So, we will see one by one now all of them. The first one what we are seeing is rhizome. Rhizome are underground stems which is horizontal in growing, very important. Look at this is turmeric. So, everything is horizontal. So, this is ginger, horizontal. Look at this is banana. Banana also has rhizome. You would have seen that all the bananas you have ever eaten, you wouldn't have formed seeds. Very few banana might have seeds. Bananas are generally called as parthenocarpic fruit, natural parthenocarpic fruit. Now, what is parthenocarpic fruit? Carp basically means fruit. So, partheno, unfertilized. So, we call it as unfertilized or seedless fruit. Nowadays, in most cases, we are doing this kind of parthenocarpic fruit through the help of chemicals such as hormones. If I have to give you an example of it, we use gibberellin in case of grapes, you would have eaten seedless grapes. We use auxin in case of tomatoes. But naturally a parthenocarpic fruit is banana. So, here we have seen so many examples as a pick. We have ginger, turmeric, banana. Other than that, ginger we have seen, curcuma is turmeric. You have elateria, musa is banana, canna. Canna is a flower plant, a very typical flower which is asymmetrical. It is neither radial nor bilateral, it is asymmetrical. Canna is one such, and then you have amomum. These are certain plants which come under the category of rhizome. Moving on to the next one, we come to corms. Corms are globular, spherical structure these are, but grow vertically. This is very important. Most stems grow in ascending manner from lower to higher. In case of ginger, you saw them growing laterally in a flattened manner, but corms are not like that, they grow vertically. They are thick or solid stem with node and internode. Let me give an example, then you will understand better and I come back to discussion. Elephant foot, the big one you have seen, yes, that elephant foot comes under this corm, amorphophallus. Adventitious buds are numerous and the buds are protected by sheathing scales. So here if we have to see an example here, look at this. This is bud. Look at this region. It's bud. Look at this region. How many new young ones are coming? Other than this also, these are the ones which is exposed. Other than this, also you will see small eye-like structures being present, which is covered with the help of scales. So, very important that it is not easily seen, but when you keep it in soil, give it a favorable condition, moisture, air, everything, it starts growing into a new plant. Adventitious buds are numerous and the buds are protected by sheathing scales. Aerial shoot develops singly from dominant bud on the top of comb. So, this is the aerial shoot. This one which you are seeing at the top of the comb is the aerial shoot. It grows into big plant. Examples are Amorphophallus, Gladiolus. Gladiolus is a flower family. Colchicum. Colchicum is highly medicinal. I think one of the students was also asking me, ma'am, can we change the chromosomal conditions in a plant? Yes, colchicum is the answer. It gives a chemical named colchicine which brings in polyploidy in plants. Crocus, sativus and colocasia. These are certain examples under comb. The next one what we are going to learn is bulbs. The easiest and the best bulbs what we can learn is onion and garlic. If you see here, the stem region is only so much. In this garlic we can't even see so much. It is less than a centimeter. It is about 0.5 centimeter disc. And the rest of the region, if you see, these are all fleshy. The upper one might seem to be scaly, inside it is fleshy. In onions, it is layer by layer fleshy like this being present. But in case of garlics, it is in terms of cloves. So, these are one single leaves which become fleshy in nature. So, these all one by one if I separate. So, this one can grow into a new plant. This one can grow into another plant. So, each clove in garlic can be separated and grown into cloves. So, examples as I told you, Allium cepa, Tulip hyacinthus, these all have scaly leaves. They are arranged in concentric manner. In short, onion-like manner. And the next type is Allium sativum, garlic, where you have small cloves, and each clove can give rise to a plant. So, plant propagate through cloves. So, in case of garlic, a farmer would first separate one by one all the garlic and then start planting. So, the cover is called as tunic, the scaly covering. We call it as tunicates or tunicated. So, both onion and garlic, you would have seen coverings of scaly leaves are present, hence we call it as tunicated. I hope till here it is clear. We are moving on to the last type underground, that is potato. If you look at the pic very clearly, you can see that there is presence of plant like extra growth. These are axillary buds which is growing. And where is this axillary bud present? This is the node. So, from here one node, another node here. So, what is in between? It is a internode. They store food as starch. High amount of starch is seen in potato. Remain dormant in soil if left. So, if a farmer happens to forget few potatoes, couldn't search inside the soil and it is lying there itself, what happens? After few days you will see potato plant coming out by itself because it is dormant in the soil until the favorable condition comes. In house also you would have seen potato need not be kept in refrigerator because it can stay out for a longer dormant period. It does not get stale very quickly. So, this is our potato and the last part of the stem modification underground. Moving on, we come to the subaerial stem modification. Now this part is a little tricky part. So what is the tricky part to it? We have stolons, we have suckers, we have mint next or the runner, and finally the offset. So what all we have? We have stolon, sucker, runner and offset. Let's try to learn one by one. Stolon, in this case we see horizontal stem. Let's see the stem first. This is the stem. This is a strawberry plant and this is the stem. How is it running? It is running in a lateral manner, or it is running parallel to the surface of the ground. But it has strategic nodal region. These are nodes. 1 node, 2 node, 3 node. At every node you can see roots growing from the node below and the plant having to grow above the soil level. So this is the important part here. So clearly you can see that there is nodes, and at every node there is roots growing down and stem growing above. Who are the example? Strawberry and jasmine. Let's see next pic. Before we speak, and I also repeated this, that if I cut the stem at these points, the plant will continue to grow into different plants. Next one is sucker. Sucker, in this case also you are seeing it a horizontal growth. If you are looking at these, you can see the same kind of erect or like flat stem being present, and you can see upright growth of the branched leaves coming out. Example, chrysanthemum and mint. In both cases, if you see, you will get upright leaf stem branching and then leaves coming out from there. If I have to go back to the stolon and show you, there is upright leaves coming out but no branches. I repeat again, stolon, no branches. In case of suckers, you can see branches are present. Moving on to the runners, here there is a slight difference to the other two. Here also you can see them growing flat on the ground. They also have nodes, and at every node you have roots and leaf coming out. What is so different to this? Presence of scale leaves. Scaly leaves, if you see these grasses or anything, you can actually peel out each leaf layer by layer. So this is the most important difference in runner. Other than this, if you see stolon and sucker, they have restricted directional growth. Runner grows in any direction, everywhere. If you see in a garden, the lawn, they put few grasses and the grass goes straight, backward, sidewards, both the side, every side, and gives a covering, which is seen only in case of runners but not in case of sucker and stolon. Last one under this is seen only in case of hydrophytes. So offset is seen in case of only hydrophytes. So you can say grows horizontally just like runner, but in whom? In hydrophytes. In this case we have very short internodes. Reason, again I want to remind you all back about terror of Bengal, that beautiful clustered flowers like structure or pistia. If they have too long internodal region, one section of plant to the next section, it will get a lot of space. They are all close to each other, looking like a vase. Branches are formed from the main stem. Small branches are formed, but from the main stem. And this is the most important word here. The leaves also appear in a rose-like manner, which we say it rosette appearance. So you don't have to see the beauty of the plant when the flower comes. You can see the beauty of the plant even without a flower, because the leaf presentation itself is beautiful. So these branches are capable to grow independently if you cut them separate. So, example Ecornia and Pistia. So, here you can see the pic of it. We have been discussing Ecornia for quite some time now. So, here is the pic. So, you can see these purple flowers which the Britishers had liked and brought them. This is Pistia. Other than this also, I would like you to closely observe these regions. These are the petiole of the plant leaf. This is the stalk. The stalk is bulbulous. Can you make out? This bulb is because it has parenchyma cells inside which gives buoyancy to the plant. The entire structure is made in such a way that they give buoyancy. And what about these root tips? These root tips don't have root caps. Instead, they have root pockets. All these points together gives it buoyancy. So, with this, the subaerial stem modification is also over. We are moving on to the last section of the chapter, the aerial stem modification. Aerial stem modification differs from plant to plant. The first case is bulbil. You can see a lot of examples here. You can see the cluster of bulbils being present. These are all clusters of bulbils. One of the commonest bulbil you have seen in your own houses is pineapple crown. If you cut that crown and put it in ground, it will come into a new plant. This is a bulbil formed with the help of bulblets. These are bulblets, small, lots of bulblets have come here. It is tiny secondary bulb that forms between a leaf and a stem, or in case of flowers or certain plants. So, these bulbs are nothing but the ones which is going to grow into a plant. But very important here, you should understand their internode is small. Why? Because since the internode is so small that one leaf to the next leaf there is no gap. This is where the bulb like appearance comes. So, we saw bulb underground in case of onion and garlic. Here the leaves are in a bulb like condition but above the level of ground. Who are the example? Agave, oxalates or oxalis, pineapple. These are the example under this, agave, oxalis and pineapple. So, moving on, the next point is phylloclade. I think phylloclade was another point we are discussing from so many chapters now. The reason is phylloclades are xerophytic plants. What is xerophyte? Xerophyte is a desert plant. It has green stem, but the leaf is become into spines. Here again I would like to highlight that always thorns is formed due to a stem and a leaf always forms a spine. This is an important differentiation you understand. You can't tell thorns of a cactus, it is wrong statement. It is spine of a cactus. You cannot say spine of a rose, it is a thorn of a rose, because thorns are modified stem, spine is modified leaf. So, in this part we are speaking phylloclade, here we are speaking of the leaf modification, we are speaking of the stem modification which has become succulent and it can store a lot of water. Stem also is green in color which will take part in photosynthesis. So, check on transpiration, photosynthesis, these are the two important things you must remember in a phylloclade. I repeat, these phylloclades have long roots, succulent stem, green stem which can photosynthesize and spines being present. Similar to phylloclade, we have something called cladode. What is the difference? They have single internode or less number of internode, restricted. If you look at the phylloclade, the cactus keeps growing one above the other, it keeps growing. But in case of cladodes, they are restricted growth. How many internodes is restricted? This is the only difference. Other than that, In both cases, stem is assimilatory or photosynthetic. There is no other difference to it. One more thing, if you really want to state, you can state is there is leaves present and not spines. So, leaves are highly reduced, looks like spine but not a spine, but the stem is assimilatory. I hope you have understood the difference between a cladode to a phylloclade. Phylloclade has continuous growth, it does not have a stop, but in case of cladode there is a stop. Why there is stop? The number of internodes are restricted. How is their leaves? Their leaves are small in nature. What kind of stem? Stem is photosynthetic. Next point we are discussing is thorns. Very important for a plant to safeguard itself from herbaceous animal is by the help of thorns. We have several examples: citrus, lemon family, Durenta, eagle. Eagle is wood apple. You would have seen eagle. All these have thorns. Bougainvillea also has thorns. So, these are for defense. Certain cases they help for climbing. Checking on transpiration, I would recorrect it here, telling these are in terms of spines, not thorns. So, the main function is defense and climbing. Last topic or last point of discussion is tendril. Can you see this neat, nice tendril grown here? Beautiful. What is the importance? They are green thread-like structure which is completely devoid of leaves. It is meant only and only for climbing. Sometimes they are branched, sometimes they are unbranched. I will make you understand here. This is a tendril. This is unbranched tendril. Now look at this. What about this? These are branched tendril. So, sometimes the tendril is branched, sometimes it is unbranched based on its requirement, which family it comes from, various reasons it comes in. Otherwise, they are green threads which is completely devoid of leaves and helps only in one function, tendrils. Okay, so you can see what are the different types of tendrils. We see axillary tendrils in case of cucurbita and luffa. We see apical bud tendril in case of grapes. This is grapes, students. This particular one is grapes. And cucurbita, you can take this as an example. Cucurbita or cucumber family also consists of pumpkin. So, in pumpkin, can you see this is the branches coming out. So, branches have become into a tendril. In grapes, if you see, this is the end of the branch and here is the tendril. Then you also see floral, bud or inflorescence tendril in case of Antigonum or the cardiospermum. Cardiospermum is this plant. It is in research now. High amount of secondary metabolites are seen in this. The name itself you can see cardio, which is the part, heart. Cardiospermum, high amount of research is happening in this. In western countries, this plant is also grown as ornamental because of this beautiful bulb like structure. Small bulb like structures keep growing on that. If you see, here is the tendril. So, tendrils with which it helps in growing. So, it is also called as balloon vine because of this bulb like structure. This pic here, students, this is a passion flower. You can see the tendrils grown here also. So, these are certain examples of tendril. With this, the chapter finishes. A quick summary to it. We have gone through the morphology of stem. We have seen it is grown from plumule. It is ascending in nature. It is phototropic. We have seen these all characteristics in stem. We differentiated between root and stem, telling root do not have nodes and internodes, whereas stem have. Roots do not have axillary bud, stem have. Root is non-green, stem is green. We also differentiated between underground stem to root on the similar lines. We saw underground stem modification as rhizome, corm, bulb and tuber. Subaerial stem modification as stolon, stucker, runner and offset. The last point was aerial stem modification in terms of phylloclade, cladode, thorns, bulbils and tendrils. I hope you have understood the class. For the imparter session now, we will have some practice question. Quickly I will read it them for you now and discuss in the online session. Corm, an underground stem, is found in 1. Potato, 2. Onion, 3. Ginger, 4. Amorphophallus. Question 2. Underground stem modification found in Colocasia is Amorphophallus. 1. Stem tuber, 2. Rhizome, 3. Corm, 4. Bulb. Question 3. The modified stem found in onion is 1. Aerial, 2. Subaerial, 3. Underground, 4. Tuberous. Question 4. Type of stem modification found in jasmine is offset, runner, stolon, sucker. Question 5. A function of subaerial stem modification is 1. Storage, 2. Sexual reproduction, 3. Mechanical support, 4. Vegetative propagation. Question 6. Function of underground modification 1. Perennation, 2. Sexual reproduction, 3. Reduction of transpiration, 4. Climbing. 7th question. Stem modification found in curcuma and ginger. Curcuma is turmeric. Is 1. Rhizome, 2. Corm, 3. Bulb, 4. Stem tuber. 8th question. An offset with balancing root and leaves with swollen petiole is found in 1. Opuntia, 2. Euphorbia, 3. Ecornia and 4. Oxalis. Question 9. Bulbils in agave are modification of vegetative bud, 2. Floral buds, 3. Adventitious bud, 4. Accessory buds. Question 10. Phylloclade of branch of limited growth is known as 1. Phyllote, 2. Bulbil, 3. Cladophyll, 4. Stolon. Question 11. Plants with thorns are Casuarina, Bougainvillea, Opuntia and gourd. Question 12 is a match the following. You have list 1 where you have stem tendrils, thorns, phylloclade and bulbils. In the list 2 you have Opuntia, agave, Bougainvillea, pumpkin and oxalis. So, you have the correct matches for it. So, students, all the best. Let's meet in the online session.